Welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about veterans, specifically about 9 different things you probably didn't know about veterans. The Pew Research Center, a number of years ago, released some interesting statistics about post 9/11 veterans. There's an interesting juxtaposition between those that served after 9/11 and those that served before. For instance, those that served after have a lot higher chance of actually being in combat themselves and being deployed. Now, we're going to go through all 9 of these. But before we do, we want to express our appreciation for every veteran that served. Their service helps keep us safe and is often not represented or recognized well enough. Often they bear wounds both physically and emotionally that we need to be better at helping when it comes to civilians and society. So without further ado, here are 9 different facts that you may not know about veterans. Fact number 1. The experience of 9/11 veterans varies and is very different from those beforehand. Now, we touched on this just a little bit, but the experience of those after 9/11 is very different than those before, and partly because of the wars that we've been deployed to. Now, there is a group of veterans that are slightly older, that have experience in Korea and Vietnam, but from that point on, there was a significant gap in military operations at a large scale before 9/11. Post 9/11, these groups are far more likely to engage in actual combat, and they also bear very much of the burden that comes with that, including mental and PTSD issues that are very much reflective of the groups that are in Vietnam. These issues often need some real help, and there's great groups out there like the team at Headstrong that are providing awesome mental health services to help build up that muscle that is our emotional capacity. Number 2, the majority of veterans say they are very proud of the military after leaving their service, right? This is something that sometimes can be misplayed, as there's obviously some veterans who are a little disenfranchised and a little upset about some of the things that have taken place or how they've been treated. But the majority of veterans really are proud of the service that they rendered and the service the military renders to the country in general. Number 3, most veterans say the military did a very good job of preparing them for life after the military, for their careers and otherwise. And in fact, you can find many veterans running incredible organizations across the country right now. The discipline and the self-control that's required for the military tends to do well also in the business world. Number 4, post 9/11 veterans have had a harder time adjusting to civilian life than those who were pre 9/11. Post 9/11 veterans, about 47% of them said that they had a hard time adjusting to civilian life, compared to 21% for those that served before 9/11. Now, this leads to a whole bunch of different issues, but importantly leads back to that need for mental health support for those both pre and post 9/11 veterans. Number 5, for most veterans, the effects of war is felt far beyond their tour of duty. Right? Even after they leave the military, there's lots of different issues. We've mentioned PTSD, but often veterans have a hard time immediately leaving the military of paying bills. There's an unfortunate amount of homeless veterans in the United States. There's many veterans who struggle with the unemployment as they come back and have to find new employment and new jobs. Having been out of society for that long really takes a toll on these individuals. Number 6, the majority of veterans say that their military service gave them special career skills and abilities that they can apply later, giving them a leg up on the competition as they look for jobs. This is natural. Most veterans are put into high-pressure situations where they're expected to perform. They spend a lot of time training and understanding various things that can then be applied outside of the military perspective. Number 7, for those that don't know, the veterans have an entire department in the United States for them, the Department of Veteran Affairs. This department is to oversee the welfare of these veterans after they leave armed services. The VA gets a little bit of mixed reviews from veterans. Some love it, some hate it. Overall, most veterans enjoy a fairly beneficial relationship with the Department of Veteran Affairs, but it could be better. Number 8, the majority of veterans, both pre and post 9/11, say the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were not worth fighting. It's a little disheartening as a civilian to hear that and realize that the people fighting the wars didn't feel like they were worthwhile. And as we're still in the midst of some of those conflicts, it can be really hard. The important thing is to be able to give the respect and adulation to those that did fight, regardless of whether they felt the war was worth it. Their sacrifice helped keep us safe regardless. Number 9, the two most associated things with veterans for Americans tend to be patriotism and discipline. Now, think about when I say veterans, what do you think of? I know that those two things come back to me heavily. That patriotism and discipline seems ingrained in the cultures that make up the armed services. This has been 9 different facts about veterans that you may not have known. Again, the important thing here is to learn to love and respect the veterans for what they've served. They oftentimes have paid a price that is beyond what we can see on the outside. I have a good friend who returned many years ago from Vietnam, and he's never been the same. I get the chance to talk to him every once in a while and hear his stories. And he's an amazing man. And I wonder, what would life have been like for him had he not experienced this? Whenever I think of it, I think of all the other veterans that have fought in every other war, both inside the United States and outside of it. And I think of those sacrifices, and I realize that many of them were for me. Although I wasn't born at the time in most cases, the freedom that they are protecting is something that I hold dear, and I hope you do as well. As part of this, I really hope that you take time to think of the veterans that you know, maybe family members, maybe neighbors, maybe friends, and take time to thank them for the service that they've rendered for us. Not just for the amorphous country that we are, but for each individual that we are. In large measure, they stand in for us to provide for our liberties and our defense.